All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Upper Edge podcast. Today, I got a special guest for you. Sitting here with Kristynik, the president of Buffaloe Floors. Really excited to have Kurt on because they're a business that's to stand the test of time. They've been around for over 60 years. They started up in 1965, and that says a lot for about how they operate and what they bring to the table here. So, Kurt, hey, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. All right, so Kurt's out in Houston, Texas. You guys got some heat out there, huh?
Yeah, as I'm looking out here today, we're getting smoked with some much needed rain because it's been up over 100 here for the last couple of weeks, and but now we've got quite a bit of water coming through, coming down the road here, looking out from our showroom. So yeah, it's not blazing today, but it's hot enough to where it may still boil the water. So
nice. All right, so hey, Buffaloe Floors has been serving Houston since 1965. Tell us about that journey, man. Tell us how you became part of that company and how you've lasted so long.
So the thing started. Obviously, I wasn't there from the start of it, and I feel like that 65 or 60 age group from time to time, but I'm not there yet. But started in 1965 with my grandfather, Glenn Buffaloe, and my grandmother, Irene Buffaloe, doing it on the side where they were doing or starting the company on the side as a carpet cleaning company. And as it evolved through the 60s and into the 1970s, it started to become a situation where people didn't just need their carpets cleaned anymore. They wanted to have them replaced because you can, technically only clean it so many times at that point. So, as they evolved into that, obviously carpet is one part, and then other parts or other materials started to come in. And, as that continued to grow, my dad, Larry Kristynik, had made the decision to come back into the company full time because of the selling aspect, and then his brother Ronnie joined, and then my other uncle Ken Lunsman joined in the early '80s, and we expanded into a larger building, and it's a true story of organic growth and not trying to outrun yourself while you're building it. I started in December of 2001. I worked in the warehouse when I was in high school and college when I was at home, but started full time. Graduated with master's degree on a Saturday and started working Monday, and here we are.
That's amazing. So totally a family business. I think that adds a lot of value to what you guys do. And,
Correct.
A lot of businesses don't even last 5 years, let alone 60 years.
Yeah.
That's really, really impressive. There's a lot of flooring companies out there. What do you think truly separates Buffaloe Floors from the competition?
Well, right now, I think there's still a large faction of people that have, in my opinion, they have a value for people that are doing things the way that we do them. Meaning, you're not going to see us on every TV commercial. You're not going to see us hear us on every radio commercial. We have advertising, via social media outlets, and it does well. But everything comes down to really the old fashioned word of mouth. And word of mouth is created by doing things the right way. Or if you do have a situation where things don't go necessarily right, that you go out there and attend to them and get them corrected, as quickly as possible. And understanding that aspect is something that, unfortunately in our industry takes a lot of bad, pub or press per se, because we have a lot of companies that don't do what they say they're going to do, and they may have a mistake and they don't fix it. And then the whole industry kind of gets slapped around a little bit because of that. And so from our standpoint is we know that this, anything in construction, as you well know from talking to the other companies, there's going to be things that come up. There's issues, and we understand that. But right now, the way to sustain is number one, always do your best and have good crews. And we've got great crews, great pricing, all that good stuff. But if something were to happen, you got to get out in front of it as best you can, understand it's going to happen, and get through those situations. And I think a lot of these companies just run and hide, and installers run and hide. And those things are really tough for the whole industry, because it makes us all look bad when we've got, companies like ours. And there's another handful of companies that are of our age or close to it throughout the greater Houston area that I feel like does it right as well. And it's a smaller group than the ones that don't do it right. That's the unfortunate part of everything with the industry as a whole.
Yeah. It's so important to stand by your product and your quality, right? And be there even after the job's done when they need you a couple months from then, when they have maybe an
Correct.
issue, if that happens, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I know you guys do all kinds of projects. You do commercial, residential. What kind of customer are you guys most excited about? What are you guys really looking to serve these days?
I think for us, the thing about our clientele is it's a very eclectic collection of different buyers. So you've got your, Susie homemaker that comes in and wants to redo all their floors, new wood, new carpet, whatever. We have the general contractors. That's a big part of our business. That's going to serve both on residential reconstruction or new construction. Same thing for commercial. We may do 3 floors of an office building, or we may just do one little 3,000 square foot tenant suite in an office building. Either way, we do a lot of stuff with the real estate agents, primarily on the residential side, who are getting a house potentially ready to sell, or and sometimes with the customer right after they complete a purchase, and then we get back in and try to get all those things taken care of for them before they move in. So like I say, it's an eclectic group. That was always a deal that my grandfather wanted to have. He didn't ever want to have it to where we were bogged down one spot too much. We've got new construction builders that are multi, 40, 50 houses a year. And then we've got the ones that build 3 or 4, really large houses every year. And so it's trying to have our hand in as many things as we can, so that if one part gets a little slow, the other part backs it up, and vice versa.
Yeah. You gotta have that balance, right? That things always change. I imagine the private homeowner probably sometimes brings more challenges than the big developments, huh?
You said it. So yes, there's some, there's different challenges with just the regular homeowner that comes in. And a lot of that's because we are apt and able to go in and work and do a job in most cases without moving them out of the house. But to do that, you're kind of in a situation where your installers are essentially living with those folks, however long it takes, essentially. We don't pay our guys by the hour, so they're not paid to be their roommates, but technically for a couple of days there, they're kind of part of the family. And that's something we take a lot of pride in, is that our guys can go be in that environment and work through the situation. So the people are, they're going to be displaced within their own home, but we try to keep that as minimal as physically possible. So those, it's a challenge, but you got to have the right personnel to go do that. And our guys are of the nature, just from a personality standpoint, that, they work well. They explain what's going on. Our sales staff serves as project managers as well. So they're on site, making sure everything from a flow standpoint is doing what it needs to do. And that's how we make it work.
Family business, and you go into their home and they're like family.
There you go.
Love it.
There you go.
That's great. And every successful business has challenges, right? And part of this show is like to talk about the challenges so people can learn from those. What's one of the biggest challenges you're trying to solve right now?
Online. Online's the worst for me. It's one of the worst things that we have to deal with, because it's a 2-part deal. One is that the information that's online a lot of times is not very good at all, and it's not accurate. Someone that goes online and makes a claim about a product, generally, they're not complaining about the product's quality. They're generally complaining about the installation and issues that may have happened with that. You can have the literally worst product that we sell in our showroom and install it correctly, and it's going to perform. And so a lot of these products get a bad rap online because people are hammering on them but they're not really hammering on the product. They just don't realize it. It's really the installation, which is another major issue that's out there. The other side of this with the online stuff is just the pricing and what that does when somebody comes in and say they find a wood floor online that they say, hey, we can buy it for $699, and we're offering it to them for, $849, something like that. And then we ask them, okay, do you have a loading dock? You have to have it shipped to you. That's going to have a cost. All these things add up. Are you sure you don't want to do this turnkey with us? Or you want to try to play project manager and get all this stuff from one place, find an installer, all this? If you do, great. Best of luck to you. But I can tell you your chances of success with somebody like us doing it full turnkey are much higher than you turning into the GC. So
yeah, trying to save that extra $1,000 or something like that. And going through all the headache. Yeah. No, I can see where the homeowner, especially if they want to do that, but I can definitely see where at the end of it, they're like going, why didn't we just go with them and let them handle this?
Hey, look, the saving money deal, that's great. All right. And and there's places where you can do that. But, generally when you do a pretty, all in floor project, and maybe it includes countertops and a backsplash and, all new wood floors or tile or whatever, that's a big investment in your home. So that also should be looked at as a long-term, enhancer to the value of the house. So why is that, $1,000-$1,500 that you save? Is it really that important to have a crew in there that either doesn't do it right or takes about an extra month to get it done as a whole? Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense. So
it doesn't. So how do you handle that? Is like, how you educate people, obviously, but is that something you kind of explain up front before they make those decisions, or you wait until they cross that bridge?
I think a lot of people, especially the ones that come to us via word of mouth, referrals and stuff like that, they've already got a pretty good sense of the way we operate, where you've got the person on the sales staff is essentially, walking them through from showroom to measurement on site and everything else that's involved to get everything to the project site, and then working directly with our installers because, like I say, we're biased, but our guys are really, really good. And so when that whole process is explained, and you think about, whether it's a building or a house or whatever it is, you want to have people in there that are going to, essentially, have the same amount of respect for that space that you do as the occupant of the house or the building or, whatever it may be that we're working in. So I think that's really just explaining how our whole process works. And like we talked about earlier, there's guys or there's people that really have a great value for that still. I don't think that number is as high as it used to be years and years ago when things were done with a handshake and a beer. But I'd like for it to go back to that, but I think we're well past that. So we've got to make sure we're explaining things to make them as comfortable as possible when those projects start.
Yeah. It's really important, right? There's so many options now. They said online, there's just so much coming at the customer. Yeah. You got to do something to stand aside. And
yeah.
So talking about online, how about technology? How has technology changed your business as of recent, right? There's so much new things out there. Are you adopting any of those into the company?
Yeah. I think the thing that I'm going to say that I do like this first, but I'm going to clarify it at the same time. These room scene generators for all the different, I'm sitting here looking in our showroom right now, and I can count probably 15 different displays that are out here in front of me, different manufacturers, and all of them have different AI technology on their websites where you can do room scene generated stuff. You can take tile X color 25 and stick it to your room in your house and see what it would potentially look like. Okay. That's awesome. But there's things called shading and lighting and all kinds of stuff like that come into play that make that to where it's not 100% ideal. And while it gives you a good representation, I do think some people are selling that way too hard, and people are probably not quite getting colors to show up the way they want to just because they're going with what's online. Now, I do like it in the theory that it shows you some ideas and things like that, but we're of the opinion we still want to get you here in the showroom, or we want to get the samples and be at your home and discussing this and looking to see how it's going to look at your, where this is going to be, your home, your office, whatever. So that's a big deal. I think the technology as a whole with how some of these products, especially the laminates and the water resistant laminates and water resistant vinyl planks, the durability aspect of those, the stain proofing on some of these carpets. I mean, all that's, it's just like, if you buy a Chevrolet truck in 2005 and you buy one in 2026, it's not going to be the same. It's going to advance with all this stuff. And so those are some of the cool things for somebody that's been in it as long as I have. But then I can, with listening to things that my dad and my uncle and Scott, another salesperson for us that's been around a long time, that, some of the things that they were seeing on just basic products to what they see now, it's pretty amazing. I know the room scene deal would really catch my grandfather, I believe. I think that would really be something that would, because he didn't really care for computers and stuff, all that, but I think he would be very, I think he would enjoy just looking at how all that kind of stuff works and how people can look at that in their house. Almost like getting a picture of your haircut before you get your haircut. Yeah. Which I don't have that issue, but others might.
It's exciting. It gets you excited about the project, right? It gets the customer excited.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that you guys showing up and bringing real samples to the home is so amazing too, because for the sales aspect of it also, right? Now you're making that relationship with the customer. They see how much you care. They get to experience what you guys bring. And I think that's super valuable too, and definitely worth the time. And at the end of the day, they know what they got. The colors aren't different because the computer's always brighter, right? They're more vibrant, and it's not an exact match for sure.
Well, we try to keep people in this is one of the hardest things for shopping. Like, people can come in here to our showroom and we've got whatever it is, 6,000 square feet worth of just sample. And it's awesome. It's a lot of great stuff, but it can be overwhelming. I mean, make no mistake. It's a lot. But at the end of the day, we kind of try to keep it in the aspect of, hey, if you're going to do new wood floors through your whole house, or maybe not the bedrooms, but all the common areas, whatever. Yeah. And you've got other things that you've got furniture and decor and all this kind of stuff. Let's just look at the floor and make it to where that's the blue jeans of the house. All right. So, if you wear blue jeans, you can wear every different color shirt under the rainbow. And so if we do this wood floor in the family room, the dining room, and the kitchen and entry and all that kind of stuff, you may paint those rooms 4 different colors. It doesn't matter, because we want to have that good neutrality and flow through the whole house. And I think that's something that's put a lot of people's mind at ease from a shopping standpoint. It's pretty rare nowadays to where you get the person that comes in here and literally pulls out 20 different samples. That used to be a thing. We don't see as much of that anymore. We'll get a wild one every once in a while that comes through here and wants to pull out everything that they can get their hands on. But all they're doing is confusing themselves. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's all that's happening. So I think when we give them that perspective of, hey, this is going to be a nice, easy flow through everything in the house, don't overthink that part. There's probably 4 or 5 colors you can pick, and they're all going to be perfectly fine when you get to the end of the project.
Yeah, I think because of all the opportunity to check stuff out online, design online, people come in knowing what they want a little bit more. Like you said, maybe 2 or 3 different samples and just different shades of the same thing, probably. So also, like around AI, have you experimented with it at all as far as trying to solve some of those like repetitive type tasks that you find in the admin side of the business?
No, I think that part hasn't really come into play with us yet, just because of what we've got in the system we have that runs pricing, bidding, invoicing. It's all it's pretty much an all inclusive tool. I will say what I have seen on some of the AI stuff with reference to like say you go into a house and we're drawing it out, and you're taking your camera from your phone, and it's basically creating a full floor plan of that house just by taking the pictures of everything. So I'm old school. I go in there with a 30-foot measuring tape on every house and building that I measure. Is that the most efficient? No, it's not. But I feel like it's the most accurate for me to get that all correct from the get-go. But some of these things that I've seen make a lot of sense. Maybe I'm just too chicken to do them because that's not really my thing, but I am interested in them from that standpoint. The other thing we've done with AI is some of our social media stuff on Instagram and Facebook. We basically have a talking buffalo that does some of our Instagram online advertising will say, or announcements or whatever it may be. And it's pretty funny. We've done some pretty cool stuff with it over the last year. But I don't, from our standpoint, there's spots that AI helps certain things, but I don't know that we're an industry that needs it quite to the degree that others do, because there's still a lot of putting the hand to the material and putting it on the ground that has to happen. That's it still comes down to the craftsman that's doing it, and that's what has to happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's so important for what you do. Yeah, I see in some of the trades, it's helpful with maybe like following up with leads, scheduling, so
Yes.
customer communication, things like that.
Yeah.
Just take a little bit of the load off of the admin team or the sales team. But yeah, nothing beats going out there and measuring it and making sure it's just what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, like I say, is it the most efficient from a time standpoint? It's probably not. But here's the thing: if I walk an entire house and measure every room by hand the way that I do, or if I'm in an office building and I'm drawing this out and measuring every single spot by hand, I've got a pretty good feel for the way things are going to work from the install standpoint. And that's something that I can have a lot of other conversations with that, whether it's a general contractor or a designer or homeowner or, whatever it may be, because I feel like there's an inherent knowledge that I get from physically walking all the steps of that project up front.
Yeah.
And that's also something I can talk to the installers about, if there's a specific spot or question, or, hey, we should have a different transition here, or this is how this should kill off here at this wall in this corner, whatever. But those, without, walking it and measuring it that way, you don't really get that experience.
No.
So,
no, not at all. Yeah, there's so many details in there, so many nuances of what you do.
Right.
Hey, so I always like to ask people, is there any books on business that have you found have been really helpful for you and your career?
Scott, I probably haven't sat down and read a book in about 10 years.
Yeah. You're not alone there.
I don't have the downtime to do some of that. I'll tell you the last book that I truly remember reading, and it's kind of funny because when you and I talked last week, I was coaching with my high school travel team. So I read a book that was written by Tony La Russa, who was legendary Hall of Fame manager for the Cardinals and Oakland A's. But even though the book was a baseball centered deal, it was all about his leadership, and it was all about his preparation for games, for discussing scenarios with his other coaches, with his players, and giving them as much information as physically possible. And since, like we talked the other day, my background is on both. It's the flooring and the baseball. And so I have a lot of correlation between those two. To me, after reading that, it proved to me without question, like in his heyday of his life, Tony La Russa could have gone in and managed any business anywhere without question. He communicated things very well. He took a lot of notes. Like if you come into my office, you'll see a lot of just small notes that make sense to nobody but me. And that's fine, but that's what he did. That was the first book probably since college. And I'm not even saying I did it a lot there and probably should have, but that was the first book I actually went through and actually had stuff highlighted that I wanted to bring back, not only to the baseball side, but definitely to the business side, just with stuff about communication and preparation and not only preparing, his guys for the worst, but giving them alternate plans of, hey, if this happens, you could think about this. So if an installer gets out to a job site and something gets really weird and somebody didn't do what they're supposed to do to prepare, okay, here's the alternative plan of how we can attack this and still make the homeowner happy or business owner happy that day because things happen on a job site in construction. There are unexpected things. We've told the story multiple times about how we pulled up the carpet in a demo one time and found a dead snake. You got to kind of you got to audible on the fly right there, and deal with things. And that's what I always like. That I took that from that reading part. And like I say, it doesn't fit the 100% business owner deal, but he's one of those people that could jump over a lot of different aspects in society and be successful from a leadership and management standpoint.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're obviously a natural leader, right? It's baseball in the business, and that's something you can't teach. It's kind of just instilled in you.
No.
I think you could read a book like you just talked about and have those things reinforced and learn a few things from it. But when you're a natural leader, you're a natural leader. And that's something that's just,
but you have to, like, leading is also, listening to what's been put out there before you. So, most of my adult life, I worked with my dad and both of my uncles. And I actually mentioned this when my uncle passed a few years ago at his funeral. Like, number one, that's an awesome deal that you get to go through and be around family and working and learning and all that stuff. But that learning aspect was from them physically doing it for such a long time with so many different types of customers and different clientele and different installers and different things that they dealt with over time. So yeah, there was things that, I have situations that would, definitely piss me off, and things weren't working, and I'd have to kind of relate back to what they had done to maybe, not saying they had it happen at them at some point, but at this point they had changed and kind of altered the way that they were addressing it, whether it's dealing with the customer or the installer or the manufacturer or whoever else it is. And so you just build it inherently. I don't know how many projects I've done, managed since I started doing that. I have no idea. I don't know how many games I've won coaching. I have no idea, but I can tell you that I'm a lot better at both of them than I was, 25 years ago. As long as you listen and address it, we make a lot of mistakes. I make plenty, believe me, but I also want to make sure that, when I do, I don't put myself in a situation like I'm blaming somebody else. If it's on me, it's on me.
100%. Yeah. I can't agree with you more about that. And your whole team respects you so much more when you go ahead and say, that was me. I apologize. Don't put it on someone else. Yeah, that's great. That's great advice for everybody out there. So, hey, I know you guys have your own podcast as well.
Yes.
Called Where the Buffalo Roam.
Roaming with the Buffaloes.
Yeah.
Roaming with the Buffaloes. Yep.
And that's on Spotify, right?
Yes, sir.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about that. What kind of topics you guys discuss?
That was just it was such a funny deal that just came about when we started doing it. And we got this equipment that I've got on here and we're here in our conference room at our showroom. And I've done some other radio stuff here and there. I've done some podcasts. I've done some other things, both for flooring and baseball and coaching and whatnot. And I just kind of started looking around and didn't see that a lot of people were doing that from our standpoint. Like a manufacturer may do it. A distributor somewhere may do it, or one of the floor covering magazines or whatever, but there wasn't somebody like in our shoes that was doing that and giving real life experiences. And I think that was the biggest deal, is we wanted to give some real life stuff, with customers and different clientele. So it just kind of started as a whim deal. We bought the equipment, we got it set up, and we just kind of, Enrique that you spoke with earlier knows how to do all this. I don't know how to do anything but put these on and turn this on. And other than that,
boom.
That's why it works. But we've had some really cool guests. We've had some people very high up in our industry. They've actually flown into Houston and come and done this with us. So it's been really humbling to do some of those. And we've had some funny stories. A couple of them that got some clips on Instagram that went viral and several million views and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of crazy. And some, it was funny because I guess it was probably over a year or so ago, but one of my daughter just graduated high school, but so she was in high school. And one of her friends came over and she's like, Mr. Kerr, why do you keep showing up in my Instagram feed with some story about a customer? And I said, I truly have no idea, but I'm sure somebody that knows how this works could probably give you a great answer, but it's not me. So, but we've had some cool stuff and some really, some things where I think customers can, if they listen. We've had a pretty good group of people that listen consistently and some others that jump in, but I think it's good information and, it's real life, it's things that have happened on job sites, or it's coming from a designer who said, this is what I'm looking for when I go into a place to shop. Or, we've had some of our builders, our GCs in here, and they're telling, real life things that sometimes you don't want to hear, when a project's going on. It's like, maybe today you don't come by the house while we're working on it, because there's some, some people just want to see the whole thing. Some people want to know how the sausage is made, but you got to decide where you fall in that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's great, man. So roaming with the Buffaloes on Spotify.
Roaming with the Buffaloes. Yeah.
Everybody check that out if you want a little bit more of the backside of the flooring industry there.
Yeah, it's some crazy stuff. So if you're on a long drive and you got nothing else to do, have at it. Yeah.
That's the time, right?
Yeah.
That's great, Kurt. Hey, anything you'd like to add before we sign off here?
I appreciate what you're doing with this, because I don't think there's enough people um, that are kind of, again, getting with people that are in our entire construction industry and talking real life stuff that's not going to be buttered up with a bunch of, just with a bunch of fluff, that it's all going to be something like what goes on HGTV. And it's nothing against them. I think that whole aspect of what's going on with HGTV, and like, the stuff with the Magnolia, that's here in Texas with those folks. And it's great what they do, because it does give people a want to inherently to go out and improve their homes and improve their spaces or whatever it may be. And that's great for all of us in the industry. But at the same time, it's not as, it's not as quick and fast and easy, and, to have all this come together. And so I think for you to kind of, really to make it to where you've got all these other different trades, whether it's a roofer, or I think I saw you had a roofer on not too long ago. If it's a painting company, if it's a trim carpenter, all these guys have their own challenges. The more that somebody that's going in and doing a project at their home that's going to have multiple trades, the more that they can understand about what they need to look for that these guys do well and what their challenges are on a project, it'll probably put their mind at ease before they start, as opposed to sitting there so nervous they can't eat or sleep while the project's going on, because we have those type of customers. But I think when you give yourself that information and that background on what every other guy every other trade guy and gal that's working there, what they're trying to bring to the table, what their challenges may be, that makes it to where you truly understand how that process works from the GCs. If you got a GC that's wrangling all these different crews and doing all that stuff, you get a little bit better understanding of how they work. So I appreciate you putting that out there to people, because I think it's a very good tool if you're about to do a remodel or do something like that, to go figure out what all these guys are doing.
Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate that. And same with you and your transparency about the whole business, because everybody that I have on the show, they really care about what they do, and that's why they're on here. And like you said, they're all going through their own challenges in business, and it's usually because they really care and they just want to give the best service and the best product they can.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come easy, right? And it's not a perfect world out there. So everybody out there, remember that when you're starting your business, when you're growing your business, it's going to get challenging. And you know what? I always notice when things start to get really hard, that means you're right about there to go to the next level, and succeed even more. So stay dedicated, keep pushing on. Like the Buffaloe Floor way,
Hey, we've got our challenges just like everybody else does, but like I say, it's there's some that are harder than others, but look, in the grand scheme of things, I think any of these other guys that you've interviewed would say the same thing, is that the vast majority of these projects we do really does go pretty close to the ebb and flow that we want. It goes right, and it does. And so it's that 5% that make the other 95 really, it makes you put those on the side to go deal with the 5% of the BS, to go, to make sure that everything's okay with that, so the rest of it doesn't get affected. So, but that's it's going to happen over the course of the year. You're going to have a couple projects that just absolutely beat you like a drum.
Yeah.
You get through them eventually.
And you learn, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you avoid them next time.
The rest of them really do go okay. They really do.
Yeah. And
they really do.
Being in business over 60 years, I mean, you're obviously doing one heck of a lot right. That's for sure.
We're trying.
Great, Kurt. Hey, I really, really appreciate your time. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Easiest is on the website, buffalofloors.com. Buffalo does have an E because it's a family name. So BUFFALOE floors.com. That's the easiest way. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well. Our Instagram is really, we're kind of biased to it, obviously, but it's pretty cool. There's some good stuff we put on there, both with projects and then just some other AI advertising stuff that's pretty funny. So those would be the main two. And then Spotify, Roaming with the Buffaloes. If you're on that, road trip from Houston to go out and drive to come meet you, then you can listen to a bunch of those episodes at the same time.
That's great. I love it. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Upper Edge Podcast. See you next time.
Thanks, Scott.